Greetings, comrades. In this video, we are responding to general questions that were sent to us last week, Friday, on Facebook. The first question is from Comrade Kathy Mercy Sunday. She writes, can a child's passport, that is a minor, overstay while the parent has a work permit or is waiting for a waiver? Firstly, you need to get your child a permit, an accompanying permit. Even if you are waiting for a waiver, we said you need to get your child an accompanying visa. You don't have to stay with a child without a visa if you're on ZEP, even though you're waiting for a waiver. Immediately you give birth, you acquire a Zimbabwean birth certificate at the Zimbabwe consulate, which will indicate that the child is born in South Africa, but is a Zimbabwean birth certificate. Then you get to apply for their passport and their accompanying visa, because if you don't, and their days are expired because they have traveled outside the country with the child, given say 3 weeks, when you then go maybe after 6 months, you are going to have problems. Then you comrade Shakespeare Monopoly Dayazana says, singamakomani singabe likhona ithemba lokuthi soke sibakhulule abantu bakithi, or we just pushing time like all other stock-filled political parties. The Zimbabwe Communist Party, its key mission is to build a socialist economy, then later on a classless society. So we are saying we are doing this in what we call two-stagism, where at the current stage, our first stage is that we build a national democratic economy. Then it transits to socialism, or to a socialist economy. This is what we are focusing on as the Zimbabwe Communist Party. We are building cadres that are schooled in Marxist-Leninist theory. We are for a socialist revolution. We are currently starting what is to be done as a guide as we embark on a revolution, a socialist revolution. So indeed, we are not like any other, just the political party, or what Comrade Shakespeare Monopoly Diazana refers to as dog-filled political parties. We are building a revolutionary party. I'm skipping questions that have to do with sports. You know, we like sports, but we are skipping those. Comrade Begisabelo writes, if Wicknell gives you a car and a house to join ZANU, would you consider? Had I wanted to join ZANU PF, I would have done so when the unit accord was signed, when I was still at school. But because of my experiences during the struggle for national liberation, were treated, particularly in 1979. I made a vow when I was a minor in 1979 that I will never join ZANU PF because of the bad things that I saw them doing to the people in the name of liberation. So I've never forgiven ZANU PF for such. So I have no intention, I will not join ZANU PF. Even if they gave me everything, I will not join ZANU PF. And I'm not desperate, because at times people join political parties because they are desperate to go to parliament. Because if you have no any other job, your income should come from parliament. You become desperate and join. I'm not that desperate. Yes, I don't have money, but I'm turning 54 in July. I'm not desperate. I'm approaching retirement age, so I'm not desperate to go to parliament to an extent that I will join ZANU PF. I will not do such. Comrade Sifiso Songo writes, any idea how long does it take to ratify waivers with the mistakes? It should not take long. It should not take long, though I cannot give timelines, but it should not take long. They should simply ratify because it's a correction of mistakes. But we are worried that waivers that are coming out in the majority, they are having mistakes. So we don't understand why these mistakes, but it should take about a month or so, because normally a visa application itself, it takes about 8 weeks. But like we always say that it has taken longer, some 2 years. And today we are talking to the Department of Home Affairs on why those that applied for waivers in 2022, some in November, December 2021, have not yet received. So we hope they are going to respond. We'll be submitting the list that some comrades have been sending to us, their details today, to the Department of Home Affairs to say speed up the process, because it cannot be correct that people can stay for 2 years without receiving their waivers. We said you send to my team your full names, your ref number, date of submission on 0833401000. Yeah, and then we are comrade, or Mr. does not to be called a comrade. Mr. Rejoicing Ngwenya writes, how grateful are Black Zimbabweans women for the good deeds of their partners? It's a difficult question, Mr. Ngwenya. Let me not attempt to answer it, because it varies. We are all different, and we always say there is no formula in a relationship. Some women are grateful, are happy, they are treated well. Some are abused. We are against it, gender-based violence. What is the difference, though, with the Zimbabweans that are in South Africa and those that are in Zimbabwe, is that the ones in South Africa, they use guns, as we were discussing last week. In Zimbabwe, it is not easy to have access to a gun. But like I'm saying, I'm not really sure on how to respond, because there's no formula. And I'm not sure, again, if there was a census that was carried out or a study done by a university to attend in explaining your question. I'm not very sure. Comrade Nkomo Nkomo says, ngingakhona yini apply permit or waiver for first time yini? When we explained about waivers initially, we realized that we were causing confusion, because anyone can apply for a waiver for different reasons. But the waivers that the majority of people are now applying for are for those that are holders of ZEP. So we've seen people who are not holders of ZEP applying for the same waivers. We've said that the first waiver that was granted to the holders of ZEP was to apply to move to other visas in South Africa. So if you have never had a ZEP, when you're applying for a waiver, you must apply, give reasons why you want to apply for a visa in South Africa, not in your country of origin. So it is different from a person who's a holder of ZEP who's applying for a waiver. So this is why when we realized that our response might have contributed to some kind of confusion, we then took a position to say waivers are only for ZEP. It's those that will call or WhatsApp us, we simply tell them that waivers are for those that are holders of ZEP, because of the confusion that seems to be created by our explanation. Because like I'm saying, that if you are not a holder of ZEP, you meet all the requirements that are stated for any visa that you want to apply for. But the only impediment that is there is for you to go back to your country of origin. When we explained this, that you can then apply for a waiver, not to go and apply from your country of origin. It then opened floodgates that anyone can simply apply for a waiver, even if they are of low skill. So this is why if you are of low skill, you do not qualify. for a waiver. Then Comrade Petros Mbeba says, who are you kahle kahle ngoba ngikubona uzibiza ngo-comrade? I'm a comrade. And you know, it's important that in our political work, we address each other as comrades. Because it places us on this or on equal terms. Whether one is young or whether one is old, we treat each other with respect. And when we say comrade, it's an invitation for us to join each other in the struggle. As I was saying earlier on, for a socialist revolution, it's important that we refer to ourselves as a comrades, agree on a program that will lead in us building a national democratic economy before we transit to socialism. And the comradeship is not only for ZANU-PF. Others refuse to be called comrades because those in ZANU-PF address themselves as comrades, and then they think it's no longer proper to be referred to as a comrade. We respect their views. Like for instance, Mr. Rejoice Ngwenya doesn't want to be called a comrade. We respect that. Comrade Bilomoyo says, do you see any light at the end of the tunnel for ZIG, which is the new currency in Zimbabwe? In the last video, we said we put together a team to do a proper analysis on this so that we are able then to communicate. But we have said that in that video that in principle, we are not opposed to a currency that is backed by our minerals. But there are questions that we are trying to get answers to through the research team that is working on this, so that we then communicate. Comrade Brighton in Ngwande Masaila, you are the only one who doesn't have my WhatsApp number. Everyone has my WhatsApp number, which is 0833401000. You do not have to call, but just WhatsApp, so that when I get time and my team does get time, we're able to respond to your message. Comrades Wangendaba Shoba Lemamba for my rights. For those using refugee status, is there any need to worry in the near future? I heard ministers saying they want to change laws, including the refugees side. If conditions that made you to seek refuge in South Africa have greatly improved, there will be no reason for you to remain in South Africa. You will have to go back. But if the conditions have not improved and your life is in danger, you don't have to worry, because they do an assessment. Because when you came, you were granted an asylum document, you did put it in writing why you were seeking refuge. They then did an analysis or an assessment, and they agreed with what you were raising in your submission. Hence, they granted you a refugee status. If they do another assessment and they think that what pushed you out of your country of origin is no longer there, and you will be safe in your country of origin, there will be no need for you to continue in South Africa. Comrade Makoni Kabisa says, why don't you stop fighting our government and start fighting your government for your rights and also better place of Zimbabwe? We have never fought the South African government. Even the court cases, we have always maintained that we ourselves, as the Zimbabwe community in South Africa, we have never gone to any court to compel the South African government or to ask the courts to intervene on the decisions that the South African government has taken, because we believe that South Africa is a sovereign state. What we have always done and what we'll always do is to appeal to the South African government to say, look, this is the reality, these are the conditions that we find ourselves in. Are you able to assist? And that is what the South African government has always done, and that is what we have always done ourselves through negotiations. So it is not correct, Comrade Makoni Kabisi, to say we are fighting the South African government. We have contested in elections in Zimbabwe. Some of us spent years in the movement for democratic change. A number of comrades that I know who are based in South Africa and other countries, they've always participated in the electoral system in Zimbabwe, or electoral process in Zimbabwe. So we do play our role. Comrade Edmond Mufambi says, will G40 come back or it's dead as Dodo? Did the banning from the ballot give them political capital? Was that comeback during elections still bad? And a bit on the succession political dynamics in ZANU-PF today. This is a broader question, Comrade Edmond Mufambi. We might not do justice to it. Maybe the first part is that the G40 seem at the moment to be dormant. We do not see them organizing outside the ZANU-PF. They are rejoining ZANU-PF. We have seen prominent figures who are said to be members of the G40 that have rejoined the ZANU-PF, but of course there are others, 3 or so, that are still outside the ZANU-PF. Some are outside the country. In terms of succession question, we have not really started it, but we will. Once we do that, we will be able to respond. Give us a week. We might want to deal specifically with this question, but we are still having Haiti, which we have not completed. We doing political work on Haiti. We have not completed that. We have Zig, the new currency. We have not completed that. So we will find time to come to your questions. Comrade Mzingaye Kwebu, you are asking if one can purchase using Zig. We will elaborate, like in the last video we said, on Friday, I think Thursday or Friday, when we spoke to people at the passport office, they said to still use US dollars to apply for a passport, not using Zig. But also the minister had said that civil servants will be paid in Zig. We've heard about toll gates that are refusing to accept Zig, so we are following that, and also other government agencies, but we are following that, and also fuel stations that are not accepting that. Thanks, comrades. Otherwise, thank you so much for the questions. We will again on Friday ask you to send your questions so that we can have this discussion. Otherwise, have a great week ahead. We love you all. Goodbye.